And our fourth main topic today gets submitted to us by Eric Thomas, who writes, "Hey, John. The decision by the board of the Academy to give out 8 Oscars before the live telecast and edit them into the show later on has sparked a lot of outrage in the Academy, and the Hollywood Reporter now has a new fascinating piece on it. What caught me by surprise the most is that one Academy member says that he got informed by the CEO of the Oscars that ABC warned the Academy that they would drop the telecast on their network altogether if 12 categories were not removed. What do you think about this?" All right. Thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yeah, one of the big topics of conversation around the worlds of movie fandom lately has been the whole idea about, the Oscars announced that they were going to take 8 of the 28, 30, I can't remember how many categories. They were going to take 8 of them and actually present them before the Oscar telecast happens, an hour before it happens. And then during the Oscar telecast, edit those in. So we were still going to see the nominees, we were still going to hear who wins, and we're still going to get the acceptance speech by the winners, right? To which some people have some faux outrage, and people like me, with common damn sense, are saying it's about damn time. It's about damn time that they do this. And I remember talking to some people I know saying, "This is outrageous." I'm like, dude, every time one of those categories came up in the Oscars that we've been watching the Oscars together, that's when you take your bathroom break. That's when you go out to the barbecue and grab yourself another burger. You never stick around and watch those. Don't you pretend like you're all outraged that hair and makeup isn't going to be done live. As a matter of fact, look, and Ava DuVernay, great director Ava DuVernay, she addressed it right, because I keep hearing people saying they're cutting out 8 categories. No, they're not. They're not cutting out 8 categories. They're not cutting them out at all. They're just going to present them before the show starts, but then they're still going to edit it into the show, cutting out the fat and the trim to try to tighten the show up. But we're still going to see the nominees, the winner, and we're still going to hear from the person who won. Hear people say they've cut out the categories. No, they have not. They're excluding these categories. No, they're not. And director Ava DuVernay put it best when she said the following. She said this: Ava DuVernay, a governor of the director's branch, responded respectfully, and I have no part in this decision, but the word excluded is a powerful one for many. It has a particular and heightened meaning to many. And as the music branch winners and nominees, get this, and as the music branch winners and nominees and speeches will be fully included in the broadcast, I think it's important to call things by their right name as to not minimize the meaning of the true exclusion of these spaces. So Ava DuVernay brings up a great point. Stop saying they're being excluded, because they're not. They're there. They're just making some changes to try to tighten up the show, and they're going to be there. Because let's face it, this is a show that needs to be tightened up. It needs to be tightened up. It has to happen. Now, where this gets really interesting, let me see if I can find this here. Where this gets really interesting, where are we at here, is the fact that it may not have just been, this wasn't the Oscars that wanted this. This apparently came from ABC, the network that broadcasts the Oscars. Now, this is in that Hollywood Reporter piece that is really interesting. It says this: another governor of a branch which has lost a category from the live telecast, who wishes to remain nameless, says that he was jarred when, over the summer, he received a call from Hudson, that's the president of the Academy, explaining why significant changes to the format of the Oscars were necessary. This governor says that he was told that ABC had warned the Academy that it would cancel the Oscars telecast via a clause in the Academy and ABC's deal for the Oscars broadcasting rights if 12 categories, 12, not 8, if 12 categories were not removed from the show. We were told we'd have to sacrifice, pardon me, we were told we'd have to sacrifice something or we were going to lose the whole show, the governor recaps. All right. So now we're finding out from the Hollywood Reporter that the company that broadcasts the Oscars, ABC, who pay a lot of money for the rights to broadcast the Oscars, when you're the biggest televised event in the world that's not a sporting event, you're going to have to pay a lot of money to have the broadcast rights. So ABC paid those big money contracts. And apparently they warned the Oscars. I said, look, you got to cut out some categories. You need to cut out 12. And if you don't, we may not broadcast this thing. We may pull a clause in the contract that says we can get our money back and we're not going to broadcast this thing, because here's the thing. Year after year, while it is still the biggest thing broadcast that's not sports, year after year, the viewership on the Oscars has declined. Year after year, the viewership on the Oscars has declined. For a plethora of reasons, I'm sure. There's no one reason why that's the case. There's probably many reasons. But you can't just go, well, we're still the biggest show. Okay, yeah, you are, but if you just keep that attitude, you ain't going to be for long. And the definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing and expecting different results. And one of the biggest complaints that gets voiced by audiences every freaking year about the Oscars is it drags on too long. It's just too long of a show. There's just too much dead air. There's too much dead space. It's just too long. And within that, there are categories, a lot of categories that the audience is just simply less interested in. And so the Academy apparently found a compromise with ABC and said, okay, we're not going to cut 12 categories, but what if we took some categories and what if we presented them before the live broadcast, and then we created a tightened up package where we're able to show all of them still, give them their due, give them their honor during the live broadcast. And apparently ABC must have agreed to that. You can't just keep doing what you're doing and not make changes. Look, Ray, I remember after the pandemic, after movies started to come out again after the pandemic, because, you know, our show took a major hit. Like when the pandemic happened and there were no movies coming out and all that kind of stuff, I'm amazed we survived. It's hard to be a movie talk show when there's no movies. It was difficult. And I'm thanks to all of our incredible audiences in our community who stuck with us, even when like no new movie had come out in 6 months, they were still coming to watch the John Campea show. It's crazy. But, you know, when movies started to come out again, then the John Campea show started to recover. But we had switched from doing live in-person shows to doing shows over Skype because the pandemic, right? That's what we had to do. And so when the movies started to come back out again, the John Campea show the numbers started to come up, but then they plateaued. We went about 4 or 5 months with minor growth, but pretty stagnant. Movies were coming out again, but we had gone 3, 4, 5 months where our growth just pretty much stagnated. And as the pandemic was lifting, I just really felt we got to change. We have to change. We got to move away from the over Skype thing, and we've got to go back to being in person. Even though at the time, Rob was in a situation that he couldn't make the commute at the time, but we needed to make a change because our growth stagnated. And if we didn't change anything, we weren't going to grow. So even though it meant we had to move forward without Rob at the time, because of his circumstances, I made the decision that we've got to go back to being in person. And we did. And as soon as we did, boom, our numbers started to grow again because the energy on the show was different. And listen, when I made that change, I had so many people in our community telling me it's a bad idea. It doesn't have to be in person, John. It totally works fine over Skype, John. This is a bad decision. It's not going to work. I had a lot of people, even people in our own community, telling me that. But I knew that the energy of the show would be changed and fundamentally different if we were all in the room together. And even though we didn't have Rob at first, our growth instantly started to spike. And we started to see subscriber numbers grow. We started to see view numbers grow, even though I made a decision that wasn't popular. Now, thankfully, Rob's circumstances changed. He was able to come back on, and we saw our growth increase even more now that we had Rob back in the house. But we were back and in person and doing our thing. there's always a resistance to change, especially with entertainment fans like myself. We entertainment fans, including myself, are like the most resistant to change. But if you don't change, you stagnate and you die. And listen, whether these changes with the Academy that are kind of being prompted by ABC, it looks like, whether these changes work or don't work, we're just going to have to wait and find out. But I will continue to be in the minority, proudly in the minority on this, and say it's about damn time that they try to do something like this. So that's how I'm kind of feeling about it.
I'm kind of torn with this. Like, I believe the Oscars have been on so long and they've been themselves for so long. Just because the times changed, it's one of those things where I'm kind of on one side saying they shouldn't change. This is the way they are. This is the way. Stay true to what you've been doing. But on the other hand, like, I get the how would they stay on an actual network if they don't get numbers?
Yeah.
But you don't want to change it so much where it becomes another award show like the MTV.
Absolutely.
There's a thin line that they're starting to walk. For me personally, the Oscars. I know I'm not trying to say anything to hurt you, but I'm not big on the Oscars. The things that I tune in to watch is always the monologue, no matter who the host is.
Right.
I just like that part. But the host is very important to me. You put a name up there that I really like, boom. The problem with that is they're not, other than the monologue, that's really all they do. And then they'll do little pop-ups throughout the show. Like, I kind of wish the host was more involved through the whole thing.
I agree.
Like, maybe even have the host with the presenter. Especially if it's a funny host. I want to see their jokes all the time just to keep me entertained. And then I tune in when they start doing the supporting actor and actress. I skipped everything else like that. And it's just the way I am.
And you're not alone. See, that's the thing. I think there's a lot of people like you in that a lot of and ABC is paying a lot of money to broadcast this. I think a lot of people like you, Ray, like, okay, yeah, when those other awards are being given out, we tune out. And ABC is like, okay, so our audiences are tuning out when certain categories are done. We want you to take out 12 categories. The Oscars came back and I think came up with a pretty good compromise. How about we take 8 of them, instead of cutting them out, we present them before and then edit them into the package later. It's going to be interesting to see if it works or not.
But what's scary now is what I do, which I hope that doesn't kill the industry, is even with, wrestling Raw. If I'm not into it, I'll go on YouTube. Someone had put a summary of everything that happened on the show. Yep. Like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. If the Oscars don't interest me, I'll go on YouTube, see if someone did a cut of all the winners. I hope it doesn't get to that, but it should be a lot shorter. But at the same time, I still want it to stay the way it is, just because it still brings the prestige to the awards to be that way. I don't know. I'm torn.
I listen. And by the way, I'm speaking extremely positively about it. The reality is, I don't know if it's going to work either. Like, I'm divided in my own head about whether or not it will work. So there's a very good chance that if they do this with the Oscar presentation, I've said this before, and it doesn't work, like it comes across as really kind of slapped together, and it comes across as if they're demeaning those categories, then I'm going to say, yeah, don't do it again. But I also think there's a chance that it will work very well, and most people won't even notice the difference.
Do you remember when they tried to change the Tonight Show, the time on that? Remember when they moved it up and it didn't work and they went back? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to listen to the audience, and sometimes listening to them is the worst mistake you've ever made. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, going to the Tonight Show, though, the other interesting thing about that was, I still remember this, like when Conan became host of the Tonight Show, and the ratings tanked. The ratings didn't work. And so then they made the announcement they were going back to Jay Leno.
No, they gave Jay Leno the little 15-minute, 20-minute show before Conan's, remember?
Right, but didn't he take back, then he took back over.
Yeah, he took it back after that.
And the reality was, and nobody likes to talk about this because we're all Team Coco. I love Conan O'Brien.
Oh, I love Conan O'Brien.
But guess what happened to the ratings when Jay Leno came back? They went up. It wasn't the popular decision, but they went up. And I think, look, whether or not this move by the Oscars works or not, I think it's naive not to think that this is worth trying. It's worth trying. And if it doesn't work, then come up with something else. But we'll see. I just think it's really interesting, the fact that it looked like ABC. And, we really shouldn't be surprised that ABC was the one putting on the pressure, because it's their network. They're the ones who are paying the big bucks to broadcast this thing. And if they're seeing a problem, that's got to be addressed.
Well, why not do the whole, put the whole show on their streaming service for those who want to watch the whole, where they don't have to cut out. Maybe they'll just show the important parts, maybe in an hour. But then for any hardcore people, hey, Hulu, here's the 3-hour show.
I think that's exactly what they should do. I think obviously they're going to record that hour before the Oscars go live. Obviously that's going to be filmed. So when you then put it up on the streaming service and you make it available, why not make it on streaming then? Here's the whole thing from start to finish when they awarded those things. That way, for the Puritans out there who's like, you've got to do, well, okay, it'll be there and you can go watch it. I don't know if they're planning on doing that, Ray, but that's exactly what they should do.
And so it'll end up being a 5-hour show with all the ads if you do the free tier.
If you want to watch that, feel free and go and watch it. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? According to this report in the Hollywood Reporter, ABC had a big part to do with this and pressuring the Oscars to reduce the number of categories. Apparently, they wanted to just cut 12 categories. Instead, the Oscars seemed to be able to find a compromise where they included still 8, but only they're doing it a different way. I don't know. How are you guys feeling about this right now? Whatever your guys' thoughts are, jump down to the comment section below and leave your thoughts there. All right, guys. With all that down, let's now move over and start taking your live comments and questions, shall we? But before we do, let's hear from one of the sponsors of today's shows, the good folks over at Badlands. Hey guys, we want to take a second and thank one of the sponsors of today's videos, Wondery's podcast, Badlands. Most of us have accepted that celebrities and stars live by a different set of rules, more relaxed rules. At times, they even seem to get away with murder, and some literally do. On the Badlands podcast, listen to the real-life stories of A-listers whose crimes and career lows are as unbelievable as some of their film's plot twists. On this season, they look at Heath Ledger's spiral into darkness and his final days. They'll also cover Brittany Murphy's mysterious, unusual death and Jack Nicholson's proclivity to fits of rage. Also, did you know that America's Dad, Tim Allen, the man who played Santa Claus, he got his comedy start in a Minnesota prison? For all that and more, listen to Badlands, a true crime podcast that dives deep into the stories of the famous at their most infamous. You guys know I love stories, but I also love the stories behind the stories, and that's why you guys should listen to this. You're going to love Badlands. Get new episodes every Wednesday wherever you get your podcasts, or binge all of Season 3 ad-free right now only on Amazon Music.